Let's talk now, Nisa, about your projected path is to become a physical therapist. This
Yes.
is where you are. You've decided to take some time, a little bit of a gap year, or maybe gap 6 months, gap year, but you're
Mm-hmm.
going to take a gap now. So let's talk about the connection between public speaking and your planned career path moving in to become a physical therapist.
Right now, I'm working as a physical therapy tech at an outpatient clinic. So for me, I realize a lot of the things from public speaking, the skills and the tools, they still definitely apply. And public speaking just helped me become an overall better communicator. Even just small situations like yesterday, I was helping out in another clinic, and I was helping this elderly man. He was doing some exercises, some walking exercises, and just stuff as simple as your tone. He was hard of hearing. So knowing who you're speaking to, your audience, as we learned in public speaking, and then also going through the grad applications. I'm assuming a lot of things are going to be virtual as far as the interviews for now. So preparing for that, making sure your lighting is good, you're dressed appropriately, your volume, you're articulating your words. All of that is definitely going to be useful for when I start those interviews for grad school.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember having conversations in the classroom where students would say, of course, I understand that working on these speeches, but what's really the end goal with all the mediated stuff
Mm-hmm.
that we're doing? Because that's one of the unique advantages that Rutgers offered in terms of the public speaking program, is offering a lot of content centered around mediated communication,
Right.
because we know that this is the way that a lot of us communicate now. So share, what are some of the things that have stood out for you, like when we did the team mediated speeches, that okay, this is going to help me now when it comes time to be interviewed for my
Mm-hmm.
applications for physical therapy programs.
Especially during interviews, making sure your background is good, because that can definitely throw off the whole thing if you have a messy room or something like that. Eye contact is very important too. You don't want to be looking everywhere else but the person you're speaking to. And then just overall, making sure you're articulating your words and answering the questions clearly, especially if it's a timed meeting. You want to make sure you get your point across without going in circles. And I think that's one thing, public speaking help with. You have to make a speech and get your point across in a limited amount of time. So you don't want to add all this fluff. You want to kind of get straight to your point.
I agree with you. So important to check your background. And also, the background doesn't have to be plain dull and boring. It's
Right.
like when you go in an interview, not everybody has to wear a gray suit. Nothing wrong with
Mm-hmm.
gray, but what I mean is, like, it's okay to show your personality, to show color, to show elements. Just make it clean, clear, and uncluttered. The second thing you talked about is eye contact, right? And what's the temptation for all of us to look at ourselves or the people we're looking
Exactly.
at on the screen, which is not looking at the lens. And then the third thing you brought up is being concise in your messaging, especially when you're on a timeline and there's very little time to deliver a message, which is one of the skills we develop in public speaking. So it's one of those skills that carries over into your physical therapy world and public speaking world,
Mm-hmm.
to keep things on track, keep things on time. What would be a strategy you would say if you're in an interview, you're feeling a little bit nervous and you're trying to make a concise answer? What are some of the things we learned in public speaking that you could do when your system is like feeling overwhelmed with things, you're kind of losing your place?
One thing we learn is to pause. That pause can definitely, it feels awkward for you, but sometimes it actually is very natural, like a very natural pause. One thing someone told me is just asking, can you repeat the question? To them, it probably seemed like you're asking for clarification, but you could just be stalling, trying to get some time. So I think that's another method as far as interviewing.
I think if I was in an interview and I just totally lost whatever the question was, I might say, I'm so excited about this interview that I feel like I didn't quite catch that question. Can you
Mm-hmm.
repeat that for me, please? I would try to find a way to make it positive about the interview, yet still have them answer the question, have
Yeah,
them repeat the question. So
that's
that's,
actually really good.
thank you. And what other things do you think really speak to you and stood out about public speaking that you're able to apply into your life after graduation?
Feedback, whether that was, reinforcement or, developmental feedback. That's one thing that even as an RA at school, we had to do with our supervisors. We would get, your month or your semesterly report, I guess, how you're doing, what you need to improve on. And I had one supervisor who wanted us to give her feedback. And for me, that was like, whoa, and that was before your class. She's like, I want you guys to give me feedback as well, so it's not just one-sided. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I have to give her feedback. She's my supervisor. But then after taking your class, like, it really is helpful, and it's not always easy, especially when it's someone who's above you to give feedback, but it's definitely needed.
It's important that we set that up because that is the way that healthy teams function in work environments.
And sometimes you don't always want to hear it, but it's things that you need to hear.
It's never going to be perfect in terms of there being no problems, because
right.
we're all people. So things are going to happen, disagreements are going to happen, people are going to work on different flows. Somebody's going to be a planner, somebody's going to be a last minute person. And we need to be able to deal with the conflict and communicate and provide feedback that's meaningful. You also talked about being an RA, which I'd forgotten that was a position that you're in. And for anyone who's listening and has no idea what an RA, it's a residence assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And basically your students, you're also undergrad students, but you're in charge of the floor of
right.
a residential space at a university. So you've got some leadership position there with your peers who are just slightly younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about what being an RA is like.
I was an RA for 3 years at Rutgers, for Douglas, all 3 years actually. So Douglas is an all-girls college. And as far as public speaking and tying that into it, I feel like it's majority of the role, being able to go up to people in very simple terms and, introduce yourself or, help them out when needed. And also floor meetings. We have floor meetings, very, very often, and you got to stand up, and sometimes it's 30 residents, sometimes it's, 50 residents. So speaking to them as a leader or someone that, for some of them, they look up to you, or someone who is going to enforce policy, be able to speak to them. That definitely play a role as far as like public speaking.
Awesome. I'm always thrilled to hear all the different ways that what we learn in the classroom, mm-hmm. how it applies outside of the classroom immediately in all these different areas of your life. If you had to wrap up your entire message for the audience in one sentence, what is it that you want to say?
I would say I am saying
yeah.
that one thing we learned in public speaking.
Yes. And let me just chime in to fill in everybody else why you and I are having a private joke moment. It's because anytime in class somebody would say something like, I kind of feel, or I sort of think, or what I'm about to say is, and I would interject and say, are you kind of saying it, or are you saying it? Right. Are you about to say it, or are you saying it? So Nisa, you just caught yourself, and then
yeah,
we had
I
a laugh about
it. So I'm saying that I would encourage you all to take public speaking. I told Tatiana this in class before, that public speaking wasn't something I was enthused about taking or that I even wanted to take initially, but I knew it's something I needed and something that will help me in the future, my future career and just in all aspects of my life. And honestly, taking that class was, one, it was a break from my other classes, and two, it really helped me gain confidence and any future public speaking skills. Like we talked about with the mediated, it's helping with that for grad school. So I would definitely encourage you all to take public speaking, because you will need it for the rest of your life, and it can help you for the rest of your life.
100%, I agree with you. Thank you for the endorsement of and wherever you are in the world, find a public speaking class near you. Take it.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those skills that we just all need, and we're always growing in this. It doesn't matter if you are the highest paid speaker in the world, you will always be growing in this environment, or whatever position you're in, you're continuously growing. What's a skill that you're still working on when it comes to speaking, something that you're growing in?
So I'm a nervous public speaker. Even, I've been able to control it, those physical aspects of getting nervous when public speaking. That's something I'm still working on. And I know, sometimes it just never goes away, but being able to control those physical signs.
Interesting to hear, because I wouldn't, and I feel that you do have a lot of awareness, because I would not consider you a nervous speaker. I would consider you a speaker who's very much in control. And not that you don't experience the feelings, because I know lots of things happen. In fact, you spoke on something that was very emotional, very sensitive, very powerful. And you were very much able to deliver your message being in control of the content in a way that, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I could have done it without breaking down emotionally because of the content. I mean, your message was, and this was this was last fall.
Yeah.
So this was before everything that's happening in our world right now being on the news about police brutality and the way that it's impacted particularly African American men, Black American men in the United States. How did you move past the nervousness and the emotion and be able to deliver an incredibly powerful speech about this to our class?
The key thing for me was preparation. I knew the gist of what I wanted to say, but like you said, with it being, a topic so personal to me and a sensitive topic at that, you definitely want to prepare something like that, and just knowing that it's something that needed to be said, and coming from a place of like love, not trying to attack anyone, but more trying to inform and get people aware of the situation and, the state of, well, the world now too.
I do suggest that for people who are in the middle of processing deep emotional things, that's probably not the time to speak, because it would be so raw and so difficult in an environment like that. But you'd had the opportunity to think and process and rehearse and prepare, and you felt ready. So
Yeah,
it definitely was an important message, and I'm really glad that you were able to share it with our class.
thank you.
And I want to ask you, if you could time travel and you can go back to talk to your 18-year-old self, but you only have 15 seconds to do it, what would you say to your 18-year-old self?
I would tell my 18-year-old self to definitely be more open-minded, and open-minded in terms of hearing feedback. So me, I used to be a very if it's not something I won't like, then I don't want to hear it. And I think really, and with the help of my best friend, like realizing that growth, that sometimes you do need to hear things that you really don't want to hear, or things that can improve you in the long run.
That's a good point, Nisa, because it's very natural for us to not be excited about hearing negative feedback, right? But you mature, you grow, and I need to hear it because it's important. But there's also, on the other side of that, a lot of people get uncomfortable receiving compliments or hearing about when they've done things really well.
Yeah.
So being able to accept a compliment, accept good feedback, positive feedback from others. My last question for you is the importance of self-care. It's one of the messages I try to reinforce in students, regardless of public speaking, leadership, or just a student of life, how much it matters that we take care of ourselves. And I wanted to ask you, what's the most recent thing that you did to take good care of you, where you actually had fun?
The other day, I literally had like a self-care day, like just painted my nails, painted my toes, cleaned up my room, just really a self-care day.
That's terrific. It's so important, even just to remember to be good to ourselves. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to share with the audience? Like what's burning in your heart that you want to say?
I'm telling the audience to, try to stay positive, with everything going on, and just any instance where you feel like it's so much going on, whether it's personally around you, definitely try to stay positive. And like Tatiana said, that self-care is very important. If you don't take care of yourself, that you can't it's going to affect everything else around you. Your personal relationships could affect your work. So definitely take care of yourself.
100%. Yeah, we can't take care of anybody else if we're not taking good care of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. Now, remember earlier you summed up your message in a sentence for the
Right.
audience. What if you had to put your message on a t-shirt? So you only have a few words. What's your message then?
Take public speaking.
I like it. I'm going to put in parentheses with Tatiana.
Exactly.
I feel very fortunate that you came to our class and that you were able to have a great experience. And it was also a great experience for me.
Glad to hear that. And thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And good luck. Enjoy this gap year. And I know you're working hard and you're working within your field, but remember to take some time to take really great care of yourself, or keep taking great care of yourself, and enjoy this next phase of life as you prepare to go to PT school.
Thank you. I appreciate it.